All right, guys. A couple of people asked to see under the hood of this Cusp Junior. This thing is absolutely an amazing knife. They are not for sale. The maker makes them in his spare. If you didn't see my other video, I'll link it up here in the corner. The maker makes these as a hobby. There's only going to be 12 of them, and they are not ever going to be for sale. So don't ask. Anyway, a couple of people asked if we could see underneath, and I am going to use my CRKT bit driver that was a gift I recently got. This is one of the fanciest drivers I've ever seen. And I got a few tips from Dimitro, the maker of this knife. He said to take it apart partially open. Only one side of the pivot actually rotates. This side is locked in place. This side rotates. So let's just see what we can do here. He did tell me a couple of things. Don't take this apart. Don't take that apart just because, well, we'll get into that if I remember when we get to it. So let's get these body screws loosened up. This is actually a kind of a cool driver. I've not used anything this fancy before. This does come with the knife. The end user does get this when they buy this knife. So one thing he said was make sure to have firm pressure because you don't want the driver slipping off of the pivot because you're just going to mar up the anodizing. Okay, so there you go. And I guess it should just pop open now. As it is starting to loosen up. Jeez. All right, so it is a liner lock, as we talked about before. And in the video, I did tell you that there was engraving on both sides of the scales. Let me see if I can put the light in a different spot here. Cusp Junior is the name of this. 22.5 degrees ACB, which is the angular circular bearing, I think it is. I don't remember. But it gives you the date that it was made and all that good stuff. What is very cool and interesting about this is the way the lock bar interfaces with the blade. So let's take a look at that up a little closer as we take things apart here. So it is a conical bearings. We're not going to clean this all up and do anything fancy with it. We're just really taking it apart to show what it is. Okay, this is the stop pin that fell out. And there was some instructions on that also. The part that has the engraving goes towards the lock side or the show side. Okay, but this gives us a pretty good look at how the lockup works. And that's really one of the things that people wanted to see, or that I wanted to show, if I can get it on camera, is it really interfaces like that. So that way you get that 100% lockup. When it is closed, it is pretty much at 100%. But that's because it puzzles into that. I think it's super cool. You do have a 440C steel lock bar insert on the titanium lock bar. Nested liner lock, inset liner lock, whatever you want to call it. What's interesting is it looks like one of the clip screws is also what's holding the lock bar in. Very cool. These are all T8 or T10s on the body. I'm not going to take the lock bar apart, but these are T10s also. So it is just one tool for the whole knife, which is super cool. Here you can see the actual pivot. And you can see that conical shape there. I don't know, this thing is just super, super cool. If we pull this out, you can see the bearing race there, which is like a press fit, he said. So that's what's holding this side of the pivot into the scales. And then you have some more wording over here. This is number 11 of 12. And I talked about why this is the 5th knife made, but it is number 11. I talk about that in the other video. He did make a little groove in the backspacer. The blade does not interfere with that, so it's not necessary, but it's cool so much as it helps in the blade centering. Gives you a visual reference for blade centering, if you will, which again is just super cool. Everything about this is super cool. All right, so now, since it's so super cool, let's see if we can super coolly put it back together with it working again at the end, because that is the key. And since I have to send this back because they are not for sale, it would be nice if it's working again when I send it back. And the key here is to make sure I get the bearing on the appropriate way. Which I believe is this way, because they are angular and conical. And then to line up the stop pin. Ooh, did I get it just first try like that? Get out. Wow, check that out. That's not something you could do every time. See if I can get this started by finger so that it doesn't pop apart. Okay, and then we'll line this up carefully. Get it just tight enough to hold it for now while we put the body screws back in. This is just such an incredible knife. I hope one day he'll either sell me one or end up gifting me one, because he is going to gift these out. That's what he's doing. He told me that he can't sell me one, but once his friends and family group is satisfied, he might be able to gift me one in the future, in a future allocation, if you will. All right, so let's get these tightened up. I don't know. This driver's cool, but I wish there was some more jimping up here, knurling up here, just because that's where my fingers tend to go. But it's cool. The drivers that I normally use are the iFixit ones that I got, the information from Nick Shabazz on, and I kind of went with his recommendation, which was better than what I was using. All right, so Dimitros said, tighten it up, get it tight, and then loosen from there to get the action right. Oh, I'm still zoomed in. I'm so sorry about that. Check for blade play, none. I think I can loosen just a hair. Maybe. It's too much of a hair. That was a couple of hairs. There you go. Now you can see what was inside. I mean, it's pretty simple, but crazy cool, crazy awesome, crazy ingenuitive. And I think it's great. So I'm just honored that he thought of me and thought of all of you guys that are viewing, because he wanted to share it with the public. and he doesn't want to sell them. He doesn't want to quit his day job and make knives. But I just think it's cool. I'm super grateful for the opportunity to check this out, as well as his pen and pencil that I also did a video on. So I'll put links to both of those videos up here in the corners. Go check them out. If you want to know all the details on this, please go check out the other video. You won't be disappointed, I promise.